Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Today, Friday, 9th January 2026, we are beginning the first webinar of the year in the fire segment. As I was saying in the conversation, welcome to the first fire. Sorry, I need to switch off my. Okay. So we did almost 49 webinars last year in various subjects, and we hope to continue this kind of conversation throughout this year. And I'm open for anyone who wish to, come as a guest speaker, wants to, enhance the knowledge on fire, especially on fire industry, and very specifically on the passive fire. So today's webinar is very focused on fire protection, passive fire protection in India, regulation, reality, and the road ahead. So it is an attempt to confront this uncomfortable truth with standards and professional clarity. So this is not a marketing webinar, marketing session. This is not a product discussion. This is a reality check of designers, developers, auditors, and authorities alike. Let me begin with hard reality. Over the last few weeks, I would say, it's the last few years now, last few weeks, we have witnessed repeated and devastating fire tragedy, from the recent Goa nightclub fire and to the incident that happened in Netherlands, where skiing club. The fire in both the cases, fire spread in less than 5 minutes. The whole roof was collapsed in both the cases. So investigations once again pointed a failure of compartmentation, smoke spread, and inadequate fire resistant in the building. So these are not isolated events, they are patterns. Across India alone, thousands of fire incidents are reported every year, many of them resulting to avoidable loss of life, not because of fire protection system were absent, but because passive fire protection either failed, was compromised, or never correctly implemented. So, most of them know that very few people die due to fire. They do not, they die because of smoke, toxic gases, and structural failures. And this is exactly where passive fire protection plays an important critical role. So fire-rated walls, floors, doors, shafts, penetration seals, structural protection are meant to contain and control and restrict smoke, protect the escape routes, and buy time for occupants to evacuate for Emergency Response Act. So, yet, in reality, we continue to see the same failure repeatedly again and again. Incorrect design. Most of our audit says it's incorrect design, non-tested or substandard material, and most critically, lack of competent inspection and auditing of the product that goes into the building. So passive fire protection is not a product activity. It's a professional discipline. Getting this right requires trained designers, certified applicators, and independent competent auditors who understand codes, testing standards, and real-world site conditions. This is precisely why platforms like Council of Fire and Life Safety, you have seen that there is a banner on the right side which says Council of Fire Life Safety. There's a website there. This is recently, under development, where all the professional has to come together globally. One could be expert on sprinkler design, one could be on fire suppression, and one could be on the passive fire testing, product testing. So we need all these professionals to have come together on a platform. So that's the objective. So CFLS is a forum of experienced fire professionals, designers, auditors, engineers, and industry experts, united with a single objective to educate, create awareness, and build strong advocacy platform. Our mission in CFLS is work with regulators, authorities, and industry stakeholders to strengthen and implementation guidelines to improve enforcement and to ensure that fire safety is not treated as a checkbox, but as a life critical obligation. So today's session, passive fire protection in India, is going to talk about it, and therefore it is not a discussion, it is not a one point presentation. It's a participation of all the interested participants who are joined today. Please engage yourself in today's discussion. So I would like to say this CFLS is being formed as a national platform and with seasoned experts committed in strengthening fire and safety practice in India. So we are now currently open for a nomination of fire experts in these various fields. My colleague Lakshmi, who's there behind the screen, will be putting up this nomination link in the chat box. If you are really keen to contribute in any type of knowledge, you're most welcome to join. And we have created advocacy and technical chairs. You can be part of that. We want to create certain group which can address the concerns of the developer, builders, large infrastructure company, because they want to approach the experts. We do not have a forum where one can go and talk to an expert or an expert group on a particular field. So she will be sharing the link in the chat box. So whenever you feel free, please click that, and we welcome all the experts in this industry to join. And also, I'm so glad that Abhishek Chabra, again, is a very familiar face in India. We did a lot of webinar with him a year back, Safety Yatra. It was quite successful, and he's back. I'm so happy that with one phone call he says gladly anytime whenever you speak on this pacifier I'm there, and he's an assurance industry expert. I was saying that I can't imagine anybody else other than Abhishek when it comes to this kind of topic, who will help us today to understand where gaps lies, what global best practices demand, and how the industry must respond. So thank you all of you for joining today. And I look for active participation, and I'm sure we will have a very interesting topic. So before I introduce Abhishek, I have a very important announcement. This is for the first time a dedicated conference being designed on advancing passive fire protection. This is happening in Bangalore on March 6th. Again, my colleague Lakshmi will be sharing the link. I would urge people to come forward, participate in this as a delegate, or if you're really good as a speaker, if there are opportunities for a speaker to come in. And this is I personally driving these whole conferences to make it successful. If you see on the top, we are moving to Mumbai, Delhi, and Hyderabad. So this will happen. This will happen this year. And also we want to go global. We want to cover Dubai, we want to go to Riyadh, we want to go to Qatar. And wherever there's a demand for knowledge, demand for improvement, we would like to go there and do these conferences. So, we already have a ESL, FCIA, and many others who has come forward as a partner for this. We are expecting a lot of other agency to join us. And please, this QR code also will be displayed and link will be given. Please do join and support this conference. Myself, I'm Dominic. I've been in the fire industry almost 36 years. I've been very short. We floated many associations. If you look at FSCA, in 2002, we started this FSCA. And I'm also founder member and vice president of FOCUS. This is Forum of Construction Utility Services. And NFE, National Federation of India for Electrical Safety, started in 2023, one of the fastest growing society in India today. We have over 3,000 members, 12 chapter. So, and also the recent one, I'm founding member of Council of Fire and Life Safety. Abhishek, again, as I said, familiar face in India and abroad. He is an assurance industry expert with nearly 20 years of experience in conformity assessment across sector like electronics, machinery, construction material, hazardous goods. He has a deep expertise in international compliance standards spanning North America, Europe, the UK, ISO, IMO, and in India. A strong advocate of passive fire protection, Abhishek worked extensively with testing and inspection and certification bodies to ensure compliance of fire safety products and installations. He actively contributed to the standards development with BIS, SASO, UL, UAE Life Safety Code, and recently involved in the UK government's independent review of construction product testing. Currently representing FCIA and NFCA, he leads global awareness initiative in passive fire protection. Through his favorite TIG Guru, he also delivers education, consulting, and professional training in the testing and inspection and certification industry. As I said, we are very happy to welcome you, Abhishek, and very happy to see you again on our chat box. And I would like you to do the opening remarks about today's topic.
Thank you very, very much, Dominic.
We can't.
It's quite a,
yeah. Can you
it's
come
quite
again?
a big thanks to you. I'm honored to be here. Really excited to continue to energize our country towards better fire safety. And I'll start by a statement, on the back of a lot of work I did around passive fire protection in 2025, is that passive fire protection is the biggest opportunity in fire safety for this decade, all over the world and in India, because as compared with several other different types of fire safety means and mechanisms, the breadth of scope in passive fire protection, as well as the journey that is yet to be covered by professionals, institutions all over the world, is still very long. There is so much work that needs to be done. And hence, it is a great opportunity for learning of professionals who want to be part of this journey. It is a big opportunity for businesses who want to grow in this domain. And it is also a very, very big opportunity, untapped opportunity for everyone to increase fire safety exponentially, in my opinion, if passive fire protection is correctly understood, both as an intent, as content, as well as the delivery and maintenance cycles throughout the life cycle of buildings. So I'm very excited to be talking about this. I have some thoughts. I know you have probably some set of questions, and which I'm not prepared, but I do have maybe a couple of slides which I would flash if and when required through the course of our conversation. So please go ahead, and I think we are happy to address and talk more about this subject because it's a big subject.
Yeah, thank you so much for that opening remarks, Abhishek. I would also urge my participants, if you have any particular question to be asked to Abhishek, we have two boxes. One is we have chat box, which you can answer to Abhishek whenever you ask question. But you have a question, You put it in the Q&A box down there. You can find, Q&A. So put your questions in the Q&A. I will take it up once we finish these questions, which we have around 8 to 9 questions to Abhishek. After that, I can take up your question to him. But your question has to be related to passive fire only. Do not put anything related to active fire. Let us focus completely into passive fire only. So to start with, Abhi, can you hear me, Abhishek?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. How do you define passive fire protection in simple terms, and why does it remain misunderstood, undervalued compared to active fire system?
This is a very basic question, and I'm actually I knew this is something that everybody wants to know. What is passive fire protection? And it's like a big elephant. People touch the trunk, the feet, and people have some idea about it. And most of the times, like we were talking about in the beginning, that people say, "Oh, fire doors or fire-rated walls." Or maybe fire-rated glazing is passive fire protection. So uh, let me ask a quick question to all the people who are listening in, and I'm really keen to have this more as an engagement. I'm showing something on the screen, not necessarily a representative of where I am sitting, but I want all the people who are listening in, all the people who are keen to actually take away something positive out of our conversation, to write in the chat box and say where they are sitting. Are they sitting in a room? Are they sitting on a floor? If any of you are sitting in a closed room, tell me where all around you smoke can escape out from or fire can go out from. I'd love to see answers. This is something that is a is a collective journey, because a lot of people who even sell stuff related to passive fire protection may be sometimes missing a point of what really it is, because we need to bring everyone together. So I'm waiting to hear answers where, or if you're in an open area, you can look at the image which I'm sharing on the screen. Where all do you think uh, smoke will go out from?
Yeah, I think Jackson is
And
saying he's in office. He's in office, and I'm expecting you can type that in your chat box. Just type it, and I just say that. Uh, yeah,
I'm reading. This is good to know, where people think, and I can assure you, um, probably everyone who will type
yeah.
an answer will have a much better learning. And here is the good stuff coming out from, through the gaps, through the
Mm.
holes, through the penetration. Um, and I would encourage everyone to actually look through the chat box. HVAC, great answers. And I can see them coming, and even the image that you see on the screen is a great example for all of us to start thinking fundamentally. And I'm encouraging everybody to say what all needs to be closed when there is a fire in the compartment, because the basic aim of passive fire protection is to suffocate the fire, is to engulf and control the fire within an area, and it does not go up. And when we look at this from a first principle point of view, as a designer, as someone who is a contracting company, who is an installation company, someone who is an inspector. A lot of people go into building to inspect passive fire protection, whether you go into a hospital or a mall or an airport. I doubt people look at it from a first principle point of view. You walk into a room and say, okay, and look around, look up, look down, saying, when there is a fire, where all it will go out from? And then can you really investigate whether it will be able to seal or not. So anyone who has been able to imagine, and everyone who's answering some great questions, the chat replies are fantastic. People talk of doors, HVAC, windows, perimeters,
Facade.
facades. Well, all of this is what is passive fire protection. Every material, every system that is not only supplied and installed, but has to remain throughout the life of the building. You walk into a office or a airport or a mall or even your residence or a building which you go in after 10 or 15 years of the building being there. You walk in and then you see, okay, if there is a fire in this room, where all the fire can go out for? Are they maintained? For example, yesterday night when we were having this very interesting conversation, that hotels, for that matter, hospitals, so many types of buildings are constantly changing. Every few weeks, every few months, there is renovation happening. So, who's taking care of all of that? All that, in my opinion, is what is passive fire protection. It's a simple answer if you start looking at this from a first principle, kind of a fundamental point of view. Where all can the air, can the gas, can the fire leak out from? All those materials, systems are what create passive fire protection. And every business, every professional who touches this is someone who is and can be an expert of passive fire protection. And I think we will build a little further on this, but I did not want to define a specific material, saying fire doors or partitions, because there is so much more that goes in maintaining the compartment throughout the 50 or 100 years life of any building that we are talking. What do you think, Dominic? Do you think,
It's a very
a
interesting
lot of people
question.
don't know this.
You're completely, the image that you're showing is absolutely, completely locked. There's nowhere the air can come in or smoke can go, subject to have a written air duct there.
Yeah. And then that's exactly what it is. I see the chat box, I see Sajid, saying suffocate the fire. And absolutely, yes. That is the intent of compartmentation. We compartment the fire so that it gets suffocated in one room and it does not go out. We want to kill the
True.
fire. There is killing the fire and there is extinguishing the fire. That's not what we are talking of right now. We are talking of killing the fire, suffocating it. So I hope the audience kind of gets the intent of the conversation. I want to put that as a perspective that this is passive fire protection. There is no one, two, three, or 30 things that comprise of passive fire protection. Whatever is the kind of building you go into, you can make out everything that can potentially contain a fire is a passive fire protection system or a material and needs to be supplied correctly, needs to be assured that it is supplied and manufactured correctly, and someone needs to assure that it is installed correctly, and someone needs to ensure that throughout the course of the building's life, it is maintained correctly. And I'll talk about that through the course of our conversation. But go ahead, Dominic, you go ahead with your next question as we move through talking more about
Yeah.
passive fire protection.
Yeah. Next question to you, B. From an assurance point of view and conformity assessment perspective, where does passive fire protection sit in the overall fire and life safety chain in India?
Um, so, okay, this is a more broad kind of question. You are talking about conformity assessment, talking of
Yeah.
compliance. And, when we talk about compliance, it is very important to know what are we talking of compliance to? Is it something I said? Is it something you said? And I'll kind of introduce again from a first principle layman point of view that what a building code is, because a lot of time people use the words, well, you're not complying to the building code. So what is a building code? Well, building code, and I created this image, of course, using AI. It says that if someone can read the title of the book, it says Ashes of Error, which means that if someone was to write a book to study all the past mistakes that led to fires and compile them into a book to say, what are these mistakes? And we compile knowledge that we have today and we come up with solutions, systems, ideas that we make sure that these situations are not confronted again. So these ideas, these guidances and suggestions get compiled into a book which is called a building code or a fire and life safety code. So these are suggestions, guidances, which is created and compiled over decades of knowledge, over decades of investigation of incidents, accidents, to come up with in unison. All the people come together, put their minds together, and there is consensus to say, okay, if we do these things, then such an incident will not happen. So this is kind of the fundamental where we are. And to answer your specific question, that when it comes to assurance
Assure and conformity.
of passive fire protection, I think all of us are really far away at this point of time. And I lead people to the question, and I would like to ask this question again. If all the people who answered the question specifically, that everything that they wrote in the chat box,
Hmm.
can they be sure that all of these things will actually perform to suffocate the fire? This is my question to the audience. I would love to hear back from the same set or someone else who can look around, up, down, and tell me what they see, which they are, let's say, a bit doubtful, saying, well, if there is a fire, this would not work. What are those things? Let me see on the chat. Let everybody read on the chat in your opinion. All of you people who have dialed in, why don't you write in and say, what all do you think might not work when there is a fully developed fire in the room? Go ahead. I'm waiting to see some answers. What do you think? Please write. What do you think? No, 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 no. We are not talking of detector. We are talking only passive fire protection. We are looking at suffocating the fire. We are looking around in terms of corners, partitioning elements, the doors, the walls. You see openings, window corners, HVAC. Where all do you think in your room, where you are? That's great, openings, HVAC ducts,
Is it that? Yeah, that's
ventilation
interesting.
shaft, penetrations. A lot of people talk of HVAC ducts, of course, because that's the
Yeah,
only opening that people see. And
yeah,
now the answers are coming. These are the answers, Dominic, to your
yeah.
questions. That
True.
where are we in terms of assurance? And
Hmm.
the audience, and I see a lot of familiar faces, colleagues, friends, ex-colleagues, who are answering that this will fail. This will fail.
Yeah,
You can
cable trips.
we as people who are sitting in the rooms and compartments where we are sealing, we know it will fail,
Hmm.
right? We are not having that assurance. The common person sitting in a room listening to this face-to-face conversation between you and me,
Hmm.
we are not sure. We know it will not work. So, as I started my discussion, that we are in the decade of the growth of passive fire protection as an industry. Because most of us know what is passive fire protection. People have answered this. And we are today going to talk a little more about how we can get this assurance. How can the common person sitting in a room be sure they can thump their hand on the table and say, if there is a fire, I know what I am surrounded by can contain the fire. Are we there yet? Yes, maybe we will be. But let's see. Go ahead. I hope I'm kind of I'm taking everyone together. Is the intent that I have. People talking about Balaji says from Frame Row
Combustible
says that combustible materials will catch fire like cables if the compartment is sealed properly with the use of properly tested materials and system, and it should work. So, Balaji, that's a great answer, but I must say, and this is the question to the audience: are we sure? How will we be sure? You look around and you say, "Oh, I know there's a cable tray running on the false ceiling, and I know it will carry the fire." So let's talk a little more, Dominic, and we arrive at how we can arrive at a collective opinion among all the people who are
Yeah,
dialed in today. That how
this is interesting,
will
right?
we agree?
How to make 100%, fireproof, or I would say, compartmentation, where fire will not come in, or the one which is in and let it not go out of that room. I don't know, whether 80% or 90% or 100%.
So this is
Okay,
what we
now,
want to do, right? We want
yeah,
to
yeah,
do this. So I'm pretty sure by the end of the session, I can bring about a fair amount of cohesion and ideas among all
hmm,
the people who are listening in, saying, okay, this is something that we can do in the next 4 to 5 months before probably we all meet in 6th of March. You're saying we have this great program.
yeah.
The two international associations I represent, they are backing the event. We are providing a lot of knowledge and competence. And I'm pretty sure by the time we all meet in Bengaluru in March, we will have a lot of things that we will start agreeing on, and we can make sure we are seeding fire safety into our country.
Great. These questions, I'm sure at the end of the session, you'll have more concrete answers to those questions that is coming in. But I want to
Sure.
ask you the regulatory, versus reality, regulation versus reality. So you have been contributing and interacting with several international building codes and standards, and have been involved in developing policies, technical regulations. What is your current view of the NBC and various BS standards and laws across state that can implement fire safety? What about passive fire protection? How much do you think that we are covering in India?
It's funny you asked this, and I did a bit of research uh, about the history of our country, about the history of the land, and uh, and I rewinded back to not decades, but I rewinded back to centuries. And it's quite exciting. People who study our nation's history, we are one of the oldest civilizations. And something very, very exciting came up. So let me share some slides, Dominic, if you don't mind. I'm
Yeah,
going
please.
back a bit, um,
Yeah, yeah.
and then I'll come to answer your question. And I would like to, draw the attention of the audience to look at some of the documents we created as a country, as people of the country, uh, 800 BCE. Okay. We
Mm.
had these books are available in probably libraries getting dusted. Okay. And it's so interesting to read what we did as a people hundreds of years ago. And some people today use some of these documents, and they call it vastu. People say, "Hey, this is a direction," and all of that. People of our land were the first and the only ones in the world at that era to even come up with a code that talks about alignment of the magnetic direction of the earth when we are building or designing. So I want to bring the attention of the audience to these books, which I feel were probably the world's first building codes, I'm guessing. And I want to, carry you forward to say, how were they implemented? And we are going back a few hundred years, by the way. Okay, and I'm not sure if can someone say that you can read? Is this legible, Dominic? Can you read through what is
Yeah, 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 yeah.
on the slides? I just wanted to be sure because I don't really
Yeah.
want to read through all the lines.
No, no, I think it's quite clear. I am on a larger screen. If someone is looking at the laptop, can you confirm on the chat box? Are you able to read this in boxes?
Okay.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
everybody said
Fantastic.
yes. Yeah.
So I want to talk about some of these really historic documents and the penalties that were already in place. So you imagine the enforcement mechanism exists. There are laws. So the Nagara Pranidhi from the Arthashastra, these were the inspectors. There was a fine, okay, for 12 panas. And this is not one, this is every book that we talk of as the building code. There was an enforcement mechanism, okay, and how the enforcement mechanism used to work hundreds of years ago is something I feel that it is worth sharing with the audience who have all gathered here today with the intent to becoming united to find a good mechanism by which each one of you, maybe a couple of years later, could be sitting in a place and be sure that if there is a fire that breaks out, the fire can be compartmentalized. So here is, something which is related to fire safety that came up, and it was quite interesting for me to read some of these kind of requirements that came out, which is the mechanism by which the liability is talked about. What is the mechanism? And so this again is a very different slide. This slide, Dominic, if you can see this slide, this is the slide that is the answer to your question. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. The question is, what is your current view on the NBC and various BS standard and laws across the state that can implement fire safety? But what about passive
Yes.
fire protection?
So I talked about some of the past ancient mechanisms, the codes, the
Mhm.
laws, and the fines and the penalties. And this is some of the clauses from our National Building Code today. The National Building
Mm.
Code of 2016, Part 4. These are clause numbers that you can see on the screen, which are
True, true.
related to passive fire protection. There is a compliance requirement that is written, and I want to share this with the people who can read through. The National Building Code says that the doorways and openings in fire-resistant wall limited in size must be protected with fire-resistant doors rated so and so. And
So,
I
with
ask
your,
anybody in the audience, which law exists in which state in our country that has a mechanism to check these things and give a fine, give a punishment? No one. There is
zero.
nothing. Where is the fine? You tell me. Is anybody fined? Is any building inspected every year? So we have a long journey ahead of us as a country, but we should be excited about it because there is a lot of work to be done, and more work is what we call people are busy, right? And I always joke about this. Busy means busyness. People have busyness to do, so there is work to be done. And so this is where we are. This should kind of answer your question.
So, what the other question? If you could change one thing, what would it be?
Well, I think the only thing that is very critical to be changed is there is a requirement of a unison among all the professionals to accept that where we are. We have unfortunately looked at products and regulations from different parts of the world because we have been specifically related to fire safety, a very import oriented country. A lot of products are imported into our country. So, some great work and great products and great solutions developed in different parts of the world, they're all put in and people try to fit them all together. So the one thing I feel that should really change is the fact that we all need to put our brains together and have a consensus on passive fire protection. This is one thing that needs to change. There is no consensus about what is passive fire protection, let alone how assurance and how things will work. So I think there is a lot of work to be done, and I'm really looking forward that we have a great audience. We have a lot of people who have logged in today. It's quite exciting that we have all the people who are listening in. So I feel that we can all come together and have these conversations and understand the mechanisms by which we will
Yeah,
solve
that's
this.
a reason that Council of Fire and Life Safety, professionals. We have forum. So whatever you're saying, it'll go on record and will be submitted to the government, which is my duty to understand what experts speak and what's the opinion of the audience. Are we on right track? Are we need to improve? Are we gone back compared to the history that you have shown? Very interesting one. You know, you talk about BC and where that there are certain standards and codes in different form it was available, and we have gone back on those. So it's very interesting. As I said, Abhishek, this will be on record, and I would like to present as a document from the Council of Fire and Life Safety that we will be doing. So, coming back to the questions, ground reality. On live projects, what are the common failure you see in passive fire protection, especially in hospital, high rises, and commercial building? What are the common failure that is?
So this is very interrelated. There is no one failure. I for whenever people talk about a specific type of building, for obvious reasons, I go back to uh, some of the work that I have been doing on the back of the international consensus that has come up about passive fire protection. You talked about this. I represent the Fire Stopping Contractors International Association worldwide, the National Fireproofing Contractors Association worldwide, and thousands of professionals across countries. They have come to solve this uh, mega problem of passive fire protection. And they have been able to string together the whole life cycle, saying how to design correctly, how to install correctly. There is a mechanism to install, assured mechanism. How to inspect things correctly. There is a mechanism by which we can assure that designers know what they're doing. The installers are certified by third party. The inspectors are certified, and whoever will maintain is certified. But to come to your question, that what are some of the common problems in hospitals or so, um, I would point to three specific problems. The first is a design problem. Whoever is designing a hospital or a hotel, for that matter, is unable to factor in the life cycle of that building. So, someone who's designing a hospital is not keeping into mind that the shafts will change so many times. The MEP work will have refurbishment every few months. Every few months, the fit out will change. So, the lack of this design of the life of the building leads to so many clashes on ground. The contractor wants to deliver the job. The consultant says in piecemeal, these things are not done. And there is always some sort of a agreement. Okay, let's do this and let's do this. And at every such decision, we are introducing more and more and more problems into the building. So the first issue is design. We need designers to be aware of passive fire protection. We need designers to be aware of how containment will work for 60 to 80 years in that building. This needs to be designed in advance. This is the first problem. The second problem is the lack of trust. And I can ask this question open to the audience. I love to hear the answers. That, if you are in the construction industry and if you buy anything, whether it's paint, whether it's cement, it's wood, it's anything, who do you really trust saying, well, this product or this material will really do what the brochure says? So, at a fundamental level, we do not have institutions and systems in place that can be trusted. And I have this conversation in many countries, by the way, the question I'm about to ask. I have asked this question to people of many countries, whether I'm talking of Saudi Arabia or India or Brazil, and I ask a fundamental question. What you are buying today, whether it's a glass or a bottle of water, for example, and it has some sort of a certification of the country. So for example, in India, we have BIS as a certification. And you ask 100 people and say something that you are buying, do you see a BIS ISI logo on it? Versus you see something which is maybe international or of some other level of trust. Which one will you prefer? Will you close your eyes and say, I trust totally this institute? And while publicly people may not admit, but inside a small conclave, people say, well, I'd rather go with an internationally trustworthy mechanism. So I think this is the second area where consensus and unison needs to come. There are many service providers. There are people who are part of the session today. There are companies and businesses who are doing testing. There are businesses who are doing inspection work. And many of them are doing great work. But does everybody agree to what they are doing? Where is the common standard? So this is the second area where we need to arrive at a consensus that these are the things, if we do them, then we have passive fire protection. For example, we have a number of standards which are published by our esteemed, standardization body for fire doors, for partitions, for fire stopping. But I want to ask people who are buying fire stopping, how are they relying on them? Are they relying on them? So we need to address this trust as an issue. And the third, very important, is that we need to have a regulatory framework across the country that people all abide by. And it is a futile discussion to say, well, the state levels do not have a fire law, so it cannot be done. Well, if the buyers, if the contractors, if the developers, if the banks, if the financial institutions, all of these people have one document that they trust, saying, okay, this is the code, this is the compliance mechanism, this is the business who will say, well, this is okay, so it is okay. Then you don't need a government to say, well, I will give you a fine. You will not place an order on someone. You will not get the money if you don't do it. This is the consensus. So these are the three things I feel that in hospitals, in healthcare, hospitality, all of these places we need to agree on to close these matters.
Abhi, how serious is the problem of untested or uncertified or a substitute pacifier products in various projects? What risk does this create during actual fire?
Well, I hope you don't get me into trouble
You
by the
answered the
answer.
question, so Priya, but how serious it is?
So, as I said, you mentioned that you're going to release all of this to the government, etc. I don't want to get
Uh,
into trouble. I don't want to get into trouble,
That
but
is
to
not tough.
answer
Yeah.
frankly, we are in a deep problem. There is no material that is on site of any construction site where everybody in that project can touch their heart and say, blindfold me and I know this will do what it is claiming to do. Nobody will be able to say that. I can question this to anybody in the country. This is the state of the problem. I'm not questioning whether it will work or not. It may work. So I'm not questioning the brands. I'm not questioning the material sellers. But I'm questioning the fact that there is lack of this trust. There is no trust mechanism. So this is the fundamental challenge of the problem, that there is no agreed mechanism by which fire safety gets delivered. And this is not only passive fire protection, this is everything. Even when we talk of egress, active fire protection, who is the one individual who will say, I will bet 500,000 crores, nothing will happen on this because this system exists and I know it will work? Who will do it?
So basically, that it's not that anybody and everybody can install. You need to have a certified installer, somebody who's keep confidence. The product is, it is tested by various agency, but the installer, how does he do? Is he following certain methods to install? You have a fire door, but you don't seal the gap across the frame. But who's the? It is, see, it is always easy to blame someone. But while you give an order as an end user, you trust the supplier that you will do a good job. But when you go and do an audit, and you feel really pain to see they invested so much, but doesn't work. But you rightly said, it's a mechanism that need to come in place. You need to have a certain practices. We have to enforce that only professional, certified professional can install and deliver what exactly. Like data center, you can't take risk, you can't take chances in data center. One small hole, a pencil hole is made, but forgotten to seal that. That can become a major issue. You would have done all the sealant and wonderful fire door, everything. But someone, while pulling a wire, he made an extra drill on that. That can cause. Even the suppression system cannot work because they calculated the gas based on the the air velocity and what we call the testing. But again, but the regular checking mechanism doesn't exist. in projects. But anyway, this is a big subject. If we have a conference coming up, we can take up that as one of the a topic, because we're getting all the metro guys, and I want to make sure that airports and metros and data center people attend this conference, which is coming up in March. Very interesting one. So, who is ultimately carries the responsibility when passive fire protection fails? Is the designer take the responsibility? Is the contractor who takes the responsibility? Or does a manufacturer or a consultant? Or finally the approving authorities? Who can take the responsibility?
So I've had this discussion, I can say, in many countries. Okay. And it really depends on country to country. The legal systems vary. The money control varies. So, but if I come down to India and try to give this answer for India, I would make one statement first before I say who is responsible, is who is the sufferer. The first thing to know is that whatever is the asset, whether we are talking of a commercial building or a hospital or a hotel, who owns the asset? Who is the owner of the asset? That is the primary responsible individual or organization. We talk about whenever there is a big fire of any kind of a asset, whether it is a cinema hall or a hotel or a hospital, who is held accountable? The owner of the asset. This is the first level of accountability. But then I talked about this fundamental change that we will bring out. I'm very confident that we are the people who are in this discussion, listening in live, who are the people who will come and meet us all in March. These are the people who will solve these problems. Number one, we need to agree. We need to have a consensus over the mechanism of trust. So if you're the asset owner, so for example, if you're the owner of a hospital, do I trust the architect in doing what he's doing? There has to be a mechanism. And the contract between the owner and the architect needs to say, this is your liability, this is your responsibility. And the same goes for designers, contractors. So at each level of all the people that you named, Dominic, right now in your question, all the people that you named, they are all responsible. They are all liable. And the liability needs to be ideally defined in the contract, the commercial contract, saying, I will pay you, let's say, 50 lakhs for this material. But if this material does not do this, then 50 lakhs is not going to be given. Right? So this is the fundamental area that shift needs. So I see a lot of very good, chat conversations, people talking about test methods. You're mute, Dominic.
No, Abhishek, we have 1 hour of session. But the topic is so intense, I would say. We can go on. I'm sure that people who are listening here are attending. We are doing a conference on March 6th in Bangalore. We'll be moving to Mumbai, Delhi. Again, the same topic, and how do we improve on the advance the passive protection by regulation, by having a good mechanism in implementation. So please do join our conferences. My colleague Lakshmi has been posting about these conferences. So we have seen Ashok Sibal, who's another 35 years he has spent in his career in manufacturing coating. He himself says that the false certificates are very common in India. But anyway, coming back to the questions that is there, we are short of time and we need to rush. And I can see a lot of questioning coming to you, but I will just try to cover up another three, four questions. So road ahead, looking forward, what are the 2 or 3 reforms that India urgently need to strengthen pacifier protection? Is it regulatory, technical, or cultural?
Well, it's all, but let me show a path to this. Okay. A easy path to this comes on the back of something, my mentor and good friend and Bill McHugh, who is the founder of FCIA, he also, alluded to that in the chat. I
Hmm.
want to point to something which we call the trademarked DIIM framework, which is functioning in many jurisdictions in the world. And what DIIM framework is that these four disciplines, which is designing, installation, inspection, and maintenance. These four disciplines have mechanisms of trust established. So if you have these mechanisms covered, you have the whole life cycle solved. So I would like to propose this to you, Dominic. This is something that is evolving very nicely for March. Is
Hmm.
that if we can club together professionals from our country in these four buckets, okay, you have a guidance adoptable document created related to design. Okay. How would you qualify an individual who is able to design passive fire protection? Let's have a consensus over it. Okay.
True.
I'm happy to report that for installation, for inspections, the industry association already have a mechanism. There is a personnel credentialing program, there is a training program that is available. In fact, last year in September, when I was in the country, the industry association opened up and said that all the professionals who are designers, they can access a Firestop education training program for free. It's $150 a training program. But if you're a design professionals, the industry association globally agreed to give away this knowledge in our country, in India. They agreed for that. So if you are a design professional and you are keen to learn, drop an email to me. But to answer your question, Dominic, these
Mhm.
four uh, groups, if we create of professionals, designers, installers, inspection companies, maintenance companies, and they all agree at something, then we have a great way forward to create a consensus and deliver through the life cycle.
Very interesting. Kamlesh Kumar in the chat box. Very interesting. We should reform our program in our thoughts that shift from reactive to proactive. Main barrier is change in culture. Very well put in, very well commented. So, can the industry body, like the one what we initiated, CFLS, Council of Fire and Life Safety Professionals, can play an important role in closing the gap between regulation and real world implementation? So, do you think though that we can do that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this is something that we have to do. As I mentioned, we need mechanisms of trust. We need
Hmm.
consensus among the professionals across the states, across the businesses. Everybody who has an interest in designing, they should all come together, work across maybe for months together. Let's arrive at a document.
True.
What is the qualification of a designer? What is the list of things that the designers must know? Let us all agree to it. And when professionals who are part of this conversation today, who are investing their 2 hours of a time on a Friday, beginning of the year, everyone is busy. They're investing their time to say, okay, maybe we are all part of the solution, right? Maybe everyone is part of a solution. All designers, if they are able to invest 20 hours, just 20 hours this year, in reviewing a document which they all will agree on, saying all designers should know at least this. This is the mechanism to investigate whether they know this. And these are the
Hmm.
businesses who we are authorizing to investigate their knowledge. And the same thing needs to be repeated across all disciplines. These are the mechanisms of trust. It is consensus. All building code is consensus. All standards are consensus. Let us, this body that you're talking of, CLFPS,
CFLS.
maybe this is an entity that can create these consensus instruments.
Yeah. No, we have interesting participant, as you said. Most of the key responsible people from the industry are participating here. We
Yes.
have Habba Sahib Khale. He raised his hand, but let's see whether we can take. He is interest. He's very much is an advocate on the insurance risk and post-fire accountability. So, I have one question to you, Abhi. How closely are passive fire protection failure examined after a fire incident in India today? Do you see this scrutiny increasing in the future? Do the investigating officer or insurance investigation officer does it really check all these factors?
So, yes and no. I mean, I am aware of several, international insurance companies who have a lot of competence and internal trainings on how these things are assessed and investigated. I have friends who work for FM as a company worldwide as well as in India. They have some of their own internal protocols. In fact, there are publicly available data sheets by FM which talk about passive fire protection. It's public free knowledge. And they have people who are trained who will come and work on their data sheets. This is factory mutual, it is a consensus led insurance mechanism that was created over 100 years ago. So I think the competence exists in parts and pockets, but we need adoption, and adoption will only come when there is consensus. So imagine if we
So,
have 200 people who are sitting right now across the world and in India listening in. If all these people agree by a document, whatever the document, if they all agree that yes, we have all invested 20 hours of 2026, we have reviewed these documents and yes, this is okay. If all 200 people agree on something, they will coerce their businesses, their employers, and everybody to engage in commercial contracts which point to that document, saying, we will pay you only if you agree to what is written in this book. Otherwise, we will not pay you. This is procurement of passive fire protection. This is installation of passive fire protection. This is maintenance. So imagine how risk-free you are as a hospital if you say that whoever could be the contractor, whoever could be the material supplier, if they are abiding by these rules which we all agree on, then I'm confident nothing will happen. This
oh,
is
thank you,
how
Abhishek.
this is how this
Yeah,
works everywhere.
yeah. Abhishek, thank for those candid and insightful perspective, I would say. So, what today's discussion makes very clear is that passive fire protection is not a secondary system. It is not a checklist item either. It is certainly not nice to have, the feel good factor. It is the last line of defense, the system that stands between containment and catastrophe when everything else has failed. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have few people have raised their hand. If you are there, I'm going to unmute. I will take online with Abhishek, but please remain. Please be noted that your discussion should be only on the matter of passive fire, and you can put your question as a Q&A. I will try to take some questions. My questions to Abhi, there are plenty of them. I had another 8 of them, and I'm cut shorting because I can see so much of interest from everybody. Abhishek, if you can close the screen and share this, and I'll put up conference details late while we
Sure.
attend. So, Abba Sahib and saying I will take Abba Sahib because the question was very close to insurance there, risk. So, I'm allowing Abba Sahib to come and talk to us. Yeah. Abba
You'll have to
Sahib, can you
unmute.
hear me? Can you
You'll have to
unmute?
unmute. You'll have to unmute, yeah.
Okay, I'll move on to Amir Abbas. I'm going to uh,
Unmute and authorized to speak or something.
allow to, yeah. Abbas Sahib, are you there? Or Satyen, whoever wants to allow, I'm allowing all the people who raise their hand, I'm allowing to
You've
speak.
moved them into the meeting room. They will have to unmute and speak.
Yeah.
I hope
Can you
you have
unmute Abbas
authorized.
Sahib, Amir, Satyen, and speak?
Maybe Lakshmi will have to allow them to unmute. Maybe it's somewhere in the setting that they cannot unmute.
No. Ask who unmute, ask unmute. We have done that. I have done that. But anyway, I'll move on to the question. Kodan Raman is asking, the first question is asking is if the pacifier system falls part of architecture scope or fire engine scope while designing any of the building, is the pacifier fall apart? Can you answer the question, Nabi?
I'll answer this. I think this is a very simple. This is a good question, and it's a very simple question to ask. Is passive fire protection uh, architect's scope or fire engineering scope? And the answer is a very clean answer. It really depends on the contract. Okay, there are some countries where there exist some basic laws, and these laws would define. So, a jurisdiction like the Maharashtra Fire Department, this is where the fire laws of some states kick in. So, there are some states who could enroll a legal requirement in the country or in the state saying this is the responsibility of a business who has been registered in the country or in the state as an architect. And then they have these liabilities along with it. But there is no such straight line answer in India. In India, there does not exist this responsibility set up. So it comes down to the order value. The asset owner places an order on the architect. This is the scope of services. In that scope of services, if they say, you are responsible for this, I am paying you X amount of money, that is your liability.
So, Ashok Muniandi, what are the right fire sealant used for data center? That I will leave it at that. I'll talk to you later, but I'm sure there are many suppliers in India with right
I'll give a
approved.
straight answer. I'll give a straight, simple answer without naming a company. Ashokan, the answer is whatever you will trust and whatever you think will work. So this is as simple as that. If you want to spend 500,000 or 5 million, what will give you that assurance that in the fire scenario it will work? Buy that.
The anonymous attendee, but the question, normally I don't take up the question, but the question is interesting. In the Indian construction ecosystem, what do you think is the biggest barrier to effective passive fire protection? Is it awareness? Is it because of no enforcement, cost, or workmanship, or something else? Can you answer the question? Very interesting.
The answer is awareness only. Because if you are aware as a buyer of the service and the impact of it, you will put a price to it. So if you are aware what you are buying and what is the repercussion of the lack of passive fire protection, you will put a money value to it. It's as simple as that. If you are a government at a state level who wants to take control of that, you may put a fine on it. You may put it as a legal construct. But the awareness is the fundamental issue, nothing else. With awareness, everything else comes in.
Okay, Anisha Ghosh. Since NBC Part 4 permits departure and perspective requirement with CF approval, do you think this approval-based approach can limit the ability of fire engineers to challenge technically suboptimal solution even when life safety concerns exist?
Okay, great. I'll give a very crisp answer to this. The NBC is a guidance document. As I said, it is a compilation of the consensus of people who looked at what could go wrong and set up some rules. So first of all, it is a guidance document. If you technically believe it is less and you need to be more, then it should be more. The moment you bring CFO into play, you're talking of the jurisdiction. So my question to you as an asset owner is that would you say if the CFO said so and there is an accident, you are not held liable? If you are not held liable and if you think CFO will take on the liability of a decision, good. Because the end result is who is at risk? Is money at risk? Is life at risk? You have to take a call as the asset owner, or it really depends on the project. Who are we talking of?
So Anisha has put up three questions. I'll pick the last one. Do you think NBC of India should evolve to include mandatory inspection or certification requirement for passive fire installation and similar active system?
So NBC is a guide. When we talk of mandatory, anything mandatory, that mandatoriness can only come by the commercial
Step.
contract between the buyer and the seller, saying, I will fine you, 50 lakh rupees if you don't do this. Or it can come by the state who will say, you will go to jail or you will have to pay a fine or both if you don't do this. If you don't do inspection, if you don't do this, and then whoever is setting the law or the technical commercial clause will define who is authorized to inspect. It's like installing a speed radar on the road. There has to be a speed radar on the road, otherwise everybody will overspeed.
Shailesh is a very interesting question. How do we plan to promote passive fire protection when installation codes are not normative normative in nature, and what will that drive for this from Indian context?
This is a tough one. It's like a Yorker. We are trying to address this. I think Dominic and the presence that you are here is step one of the solution. With awareness of what is the impact of not doing this, when that awareness peaks, everybody will start doing it.
You very correctly said. Yes, that's a start point, and yes, it's a long way to go. But we all have to come together. Now, instead of working in silos or top discussing, we need to come together, put up a document, put up evidences, put up statistics, present to the government. Then, yes, of course, there will be a good interaction between the. We need to lobby with the government. Basically, we have in India, many other fire associations. We don't lobby the government, influence them because we work in isolation basically. Though I'm part of all the associations which is started. But I feel that we need to come back more strongly. So Vigneshwar is asking, has fire stopping been reviewed during the insurance risk survey?
Yes, absolutely. Well, not necessarily in all the projects in India, but I know of several insurance companies whose risk assessors have internal guideline documents on how to inspect passive fire protection, specifically fire stopping. So yes, it can be done. It is done in some places. I encourage people to, as I said, look towards the resources of FCIA. There are a lot of publicly available resources. It should be done.
Yeah, and Nitesh bringing the technology here. He's saying, can we strengthen this compliance framework by adding an AI-driven fire, smoke, and safety detection layer, especially for early stage fire and smoke events where passive system alone may not give timely alert? Yeah,
Well,
of course, it is there. Yeah.
my answer is a bit reverse to the obvious answer. Yes, intelligence will help, of course. But unless there is a fine, unless there is an
Penalty.
implication of breaking the law or not happening, then more and more intelligence will not really help. I can say this for sure. From the time we started having this discussion about 2 hours ago, about 50 people wrote in the chat boxes that we know
Mm-hmm.
this will not work. We know this will not work. We know this will not work. Right? So, of course, we can add AI to tell it will not work, but we already know it does not work. What then? is what we have to agree and arrive at a consensus that what do we do when this is not working.
Okay. Now, Abba Sahib, if you can, if you are listening to me and you said you had a problem in unmuting, can you come over?
Yes, 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 Dominic sir.
Yeah,
Thank you
well,
so
I
much.
hope
Thank you
you're
for
enjoying the conversation here.
absolutely. When Abhishek is there, I think it's always a
Thank
full
you so much.
packed show. So thank you, Abhishek, for great insights. I just wanted to add one comment when you asked this question to Abhishek. Who's the
Yeah.
responsible? Who's the responsible stakeholder in entire? I just wanted to share this on this platform because very engrossing discussion, and Abhishek will endorse my point. The recent verdict from His Highness Major Martin on Greenfield Tower. I think, Dominic sir, if you really listen that 1 hour verdict, you'll get all your answers. You'll get all your answers, and he has really thrashed everyone, including all of us as residents. See, the thing I expect here onward, and I'm very happy Abhishek has put it in a very concluding way. Let's clear the logic of people, the strategy part of it. You said culture, governance, and execution all together, because we cannot throw blame on authorities, policymakers, but we need to really create awareness first of all. Who's who and what exactly things happen. Passive is the main frame under which you have other things, how material behave under fire. If we can, the industry experts can put together in your next conference as a basic first session, this is what it is. I think then only we'll be able to educate people what they're doing wrong, who's responsible, and of course, inspections and testings as well as auditing of execution at various levels. I was discussing this with one of the very big construction company who are giving passive fire protection products, and I realized the gap is at execution level. What designer knows is not known by executor, and that's where products are failing miserably. And that's my from my side. I hope Abhishek will agree with me.
Oh, sure. I mean, as I said, I had intended to draw a direction for all the people who are listening. And as I said, more than 50% of the people started about 2 hours ago by saying, well, I know this will not work, this will not work, this will. You already know what all passive fire protection is. You already know what all passive protection is not working. So I feel the opportunity, Dominic, you are creating is an excellent one in March. I feel that all the people who have, invested 2 hours today, they should write in to you as someone who is kind of a nodal entity collecting all of this, saying what are the 4 documents that we can all agree on that will solve these. And as I said, the International Association, which has a trademark DIM framework, I just shared in a chat a white paper about how these competencies are working. There are already credentialing systems that work. It can be adopted as is in parts in India. We have
Okay.
Muhammad Atarwala, who is, listening in from Nobel. He's a member of the association, and so is, the fire testing laboratory in Chennai, Adit. They are all working on these freely available tools in order to enhance the offerings in India. So I'm very excited about it, and I've shared this white paper in the webinar chat. You can all download and read through. It's an excellent resource for everybody.
And Abhishek, one thing I would like to request Dominic sir is, I think somebody said enforcement and all. Yes. See, life loss is invaluable. It's a prime focus for all of us. At the same time, business losses. And that's why I saw the agenda, Dominic sir. One session,
Hmm.
please add on property loss prevention and
Property
resilience.
loss
Loss
prevention. Yeah.
prevention and resilience. I'll be very happy to help you on this
Yeah, good. Yeah,
aspect.
I will come back to you, Abba Sahib, on
And
this.
one question to audience: anybody who saw the designation of Abhishek, have you understood what his designation? Abhishek, can you quickly talk about what you say about assurance expert, and that's what
Uh,
is really important.
well, thanks, Abba Sahib. I think, I did try to allude towards it. We are talking of trust. And I think there are lots of elements and services and documents that provide this trust. So I've worked more than 2.5 decades in this industry, which is called the assurance industry. And the assurance industry, and I have training programs, a lot of them are free to talk about this assurance industry, is how assurance mechanisms come to play. You have standards. Everybody says, well, this is to the standard. What is that standard? Standard is a key component of the assurance industry. When someone says this is as per an international standard, people start trusting it. So it's a mechanism of trust. When someone says this has been tested, this is certified, this is listed, these are all vocabulary and tools that provide the assurance that yes, this will work. So that's my title. Thanks, Abba Sahib, for kind of spotlighting it. But I'm very open and candid about this. Dominic, introduced me with tick.guru. Everybody's welcome to go through a lot of free resources. I have some training programs that are free. I want to share the knowledge, not kind of pocket it with myself and say I want to sell it for money. I wish I could make money, but yeah.
Thank
Good,
you. Thank you.
exactly. It's 1.5 hours. I think Satyen and Akshay, quick if you want to talk quickly to Abhishek, you can come forward. Okay, so Lakshmi can mute them. A very very lovely audience we had. We had almost 450 registration, and lovely. Sajid Baif again, Butler is joining. Many of them from Dubai have joined, and a couple of them Sri Lanka and Singapore. I could see they have joined, and it shows the interest in the subject that we are talking. So it's my humble request to all of you. We are very focused seminar conference that we're doing in Bangalore. Then we'll do in Mumbai and Delhi and Hyderabad. This is where I need support of yours. Come forward. You can sponsor. There are testing agents who are there here. You can come forward and talk about the method of testing and certification. And we, like Abbas Sahib said, very interesting subject that can add into this. So please do keep in touch with us. We'll come back again with another topic very soon, maybe on the fire coating something. So we'll come back on this. And thank you for joining. And wonderful audience. I really enjoyed sitting through. And Abhishek, as usual, he's a wonderful human being. To be a good friend to him and being associated with Abhishek. Continue your journey. I want to thank Abhishek for sparing. I know how busy you are and how demanding you are there from most of the countries. Thank you for sparing your time, Abhishek. Abhishek will be in India on March 6th. And he'll be here for one day before. So those who come here for the conference can personally meet him, take his photograph with Abhishek. It'd be fine to see him physically to meet him and handshake with him. So look forward to see you again, and thank you so much, Abhishek and FCIA being part of this and allowing Abhishek to participate in. I want to thank Bill also who came, who joined in from New York. Or Los Angeles or somewhere. I think he's in Chicago. Nice to see the world over. The leaders are coming in and participating in this kind of conference. It gives me more confidence. It's inspiring for me to come back again. It's a similar subject. Thank you. You all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you, Abhishek.
Thank you very, very much. And just in closing, I'm going to say a word that if there is anybody who is visiting the Intersect show, we have put up a fantastic lineup of speakers who are talking about passive fire protection over 3 days, 12th, 13th, and 14th. You're most welcome to come register and join I know some of the people in the audience are going to be attending. So looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Dominic. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure for having you all around.
Thank you. Look forward to see you again. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.